Yo, what's up, everybody? Market attempted a little bit of a rebound today. We got a little bit of a rebound in the Nas and the S&P. Stagflation! That's what everybody's freaking out about, stagflation. Look, I'm making a bet here, folks. I'm doing a contrarian bet. I just don't buy into this whole stagflation narrative that's going on. I mean, yeah, prices are going up. Talked about that yesterday. They're going up in response to an economy that is reopening, people getting back to normal after really kind of like an unprecedented pandemic, crisis, whatever you want to call it, shut things down, created all kinds of supply chain havoc, whatever. And I'm just not buying into this whole stagflation thing. Now, I'm not a policymaker. It doesn't mean that the Fed won't panic on this. I mean, we've seen, I have to say that up until now, I'm kind of impressed by Powell's, fortitude in the face of lots and lots of criticism that the guy is getting. Like, he's got to raise interest rates. Raising interest rates, again, I'm going to explain from an MMT perspective. That is raising the general price level. That is not squashing inflation. That will not squash inflation. And the reason why that is true, why interest rates affect the general price level, is because the cost of credit is reflected in the cost of all goods and services. When you raise the cost of credit, you essentially raise prices across the board. The government is a price setter. The Fed, as the government's bank and rate setter, is a price setter. And I mean, you saw this very, very clearly in the 80s. Somebody asked me today, Mike, what was he was having some conversation with a friend or a colleague about the 80s inflation, and he wanted to know, what do you say to somebody who says, well, this is like an 80s style inflation? First of all, in the 80s, and I lived back then, I lived in it, I was a trader, we had 2 oil embargoes, all right? Embargoes. That was a complete shutdown, and back then, the United States was totally dependent on imported oil. So we had 2 oil embargoes. We had much higher unionization, union membership. Unions were very powerful in the 80s. And we had this, what economists call cost push inflation or wage push inflation. Prices were going up. Unions demanded more. They had the power over businesses and corporations. And so it was this escalating type of a dynamic going on. The other thing, and for me, it was really the most important thing, was that the Fed went crazy raising interest rates from something like 4% to 21%. And you could literally see the inflation trend follow the rate increases until finally it got to the point where, things crashed. They crashed the economy, but the inflation was really fueled. It was really fanned by that brutal rise in rate hikes, monetary policy. And always to this day, I've always been like amazed, not so much amazed, I guess that's not the word, but I just kind of like look at how Paul Volcker was so idolized, like as the god of central bankers, when in fact, he was the one who was really the guy who pushed the inflation to these crazy levels. And by the way, we are nowhere near the inflation levels that we saw in the 80s. But you had those three things going on. You had the oil embargoes, you had the wage push, and you had Volcker pushing interest rates to 21%. I mean, is that what they want now? Like, really? Seriously? The other thing was like energy was a much higher component of the economy at that time. It had the trickle effect, the flow through effect to the economy was much more significant than it is right now. Look, nobody likes paying $5, $6 a gallon. I don't know what you're paying. We're paying here in New York. I pay. I use premium. That's over $4. I mean, it was like that back in, what was it, 2007, 2008, when oil spiked up to $150. But here's the other thing that, we hear a lot of talk about, hey, you can't do the Biden social spending infrastructure bill because that's going to push inflation. And I get a kick out of this because for all of you, die-hard free market capitalists out there, the most sacred thing to you, I'm assuming, if you're a capitalist, is the profit motive. That's what drives capitalism. And if government spends more and invests more, that will induce the private sector to produce more to meet that demand. That is the essence of the profit motive. And when you produce more, what does it mean? You get more supply. When you have more supply, that is not a condition for higher prices. So people who are arguing, you can't rebuild our roads and infrastructure. You can't help people out because it's going to drive inflation. That is just wrong. You create more supply. Now, right now, we're dealing with a situation where we still have these supply chain issues, but, I've given evidence, examples of how they're starting to dissipate, starting to become less of a problem. So all I'm saying here, folks, is hang in there. I'm doing the contrarian here. Don't forget, you got until the end of this month to get on board with MMT Trader. Then it's going really institutional price-wise. So sign up. Go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up today. Come on, go do it right now. And if it really hurts, let me know. I can help people out. Bye.